My question is, and I think you've shed some light on something that I used to experience, and maybe you could fill in some gaps in there. When I would visit older people that were in Alzheimer's or on their transitioning phase of their life, they didn't seem to have much appearance on their screen of any understanding. But somehow in me, I would see that there is an understanding of what's happening, but I quite couldn't see it in their face. But I have this feeling that they are cognizant of much, but it's not showing on the visual screen. How might you explain what's happening to a person who's in that state?
Well, a person in that state may have lost certain faculties or functions that enable them to speak or even move or have almost any expression at all. But we all know that you can lie motionless, and we all do this every night in bed. We fall asleep, we lie absolutely motionless and expressionless in bed, while our mind is having the wildest of dreams. So it's possible to have a very rich inner life with absolutely no expression on the outside. So we cannot be sure that someone in the waking state who has lost the faculty of verbal expression or movement is not having a rich inner experience, and certainly that they are conscious. What they are conscious of is, of course, in doubt. For instance, they may no longer be able to see or hear. But people who cannot see, blind people and deaf people, are no less aware than we are. What they are aware of is different from what we are aware of. But they are no less aware. There's no loss of awareness. There's loss of the faculty of seeing and hearing, or speaking, or moving, or acting, but there's no loss of awareness. The mistake we make, I say we in our culture, is to equate the loss of our faculties with the loss of awareness. That's an assumption that most people just consider to be true, but there's no evidence for it.
So in that they might not, we're not sure of what they're actually experiencing because they're losing some faculties, but somehow behind that I felt like they're really seeing everything that's happening in the room, but they're not able to express it. Is that accurate in their screen?
That's possible. That okay. They could be, for instance, someone could still have the ability of sight, and thought and emotion, but they could have no ability to move. So they would appear to you to be completely motionless, and you might think they were not experiencing anything. They might be hearing everything, seeing everything. But even if they weren't hearing and seeing, there would be no loss of awareness.
In other words, the screen is still present.
Yes. Yes, when this house is taken down, there'll be no loss of space. While the building is standing, it appears that the space pervades the building and is dependent on it, shares its limits, and therefore shares its destiny. But the space in this room doesn't share the destiny of this building. When this building is taken down, nothing will happen to the space. It won't suddenly be liberated. It wasn't confined in the first place. So awareness is like that. It pervades the body, but it's not generated by the body, and it doesn't share the limits or destiny of the body. So there's no loss or gain of awareness. There can be the loss of or gain of the faculties of speech, thought, sight, sound, smell, but no loss of awareness. Everything vanishes, everything appears and disappears. Awareness is the one element of experience that never appears or disappears. In other words, awareness is the ever-present substratum within which everything else comes and goes. In our culture, we believe that time and space are the ever-present substratum in which everything else, including consciousness, comes and goes. But this is not our experience. If we stay close to the evidence of experience, time and space appear in consciousness. Anybody's knowledge or experience of time and space is always an experience in consciousness. But because our culture has overlooked the presence of consciousness, we ascribe the ever-presence of consciousness to time and space, and we think it's time and space that is ever-present or everlasting. No, time and space are temporary appearances within the ever-present reality of consciousness. This is in fact our experience. When you fall asleep at night, time and space disappear, but the experience of being aware doesn't disappear. What you are aware of does disappear, but the experience of being aware doesn't disappear. Time and space disappears, time and space appear and disappear in our experience, in awareness's experience, but awareness itself is the only element of experience that is ever present.
So when they transition, their awareness is still present, but in another dimension as well?
You mean when they after death, whatever
Yes.
process they go through after death?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. So in this lifetime, consciousness has contracted into the very clearly defined body-mind that each of us seems to be, and then when this body-mind upon death, it begins to unwind. The contraction delocalizes, and at a certain point it is no longer condensed into a body, but there may still be, I borrow the analogy from Bernardo Kastrup, if you consider our body-mind like a whirlpool in a river. When the whirlpool loses its form, the energies that were contained in the whirlpool disband into the broader medium of the river as in the form of ripples, and the ripples flow out into the broader medium of the river, exactly the same way when somebody dies. This very clearly defined localization of the body-mind begins to disband. It loses its form, but it disbands into the same field of consciousness in which the life of the person, the body, existed. So yes, whatever transition the mind goes through after death, it happens in, it is known by, and it is made of the same consciousness that our experience during life appears in, is known by, and is made of. In other words, consciousness itself never undergoes any transition. It is the mind that changes within consciousness. It's the movie on the screen that changes, but the screen-like presence of awareness never itself undergoes any change.
Thank you.